What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters. Welcome to the Life Metal. Gonna be doing a part 3 of this thrash metal series that I've been doing. I did like a top 30, and then I did another 20, and I'm going to be doing another 20 plus. I think there's more than 20 here. I didn't count. Probably more like 25. So you think, you know, well, you already done 50, so you must be getting to the bottom of the barrel. Hardly. There's a lot of great thrash metal out there. Had a discussion with somebody on Facebook. Actually, I had a discussion with someone on Facebook and YouTube about thrash, and both people kind of had a similar opinion that most of these bands are B grade or C grade and garbage compared to the big four, who they feel. I think one of the guys said the cream rose to the top and the rest of them are garbage. I don't agree. Personally, I think some of the bands that didn't make it to the top were as good as, if not better than, bands like Metallica and Slayer, but that's just my opinion. Matter of fact, what you're listening to in the background is some demo material by a band called Rapture, and I think they're fantastic. So Rapture became the Musketeers, a band that never even could get a contract, but were hardly a garbage band. They had to write songs, they had riffs, they had everything going for them, and a lot of these bands do. So anyhow, I'm going to get right into this once again. As I did with the last few, I'm going to start off with a handful of newer bands, mostly bands from the 2000s. But this is Avenger of Blood, Death Brigade. I can't remember if this is their second full length. They had a few demos before this. I think they put out some demo material since with all new members. I don't even know if they're still together. But Shannon Fry is the drummer for this band, and he ended up being the main member of the band as well. What you got here is a band that sounds like they came out of Germany circa 1988 or 87. You know, that raw, chaotic thrash metal that bands like Sodom and Destruction were putting out back in the day. That's what you're going to get here. Heavy hints of Slayer, and maybe Sepultura. You know, it kind of has that vibe. Even a bit of death metal in it. You know, and when I say death metal, I'm talking like early death metal, like Possessed and Death, but mostly just straightforward thrash. Very cool cover art too, by what's his name, Patagno, the guy who did a lot of the Motorhead covers. So really cool. And this is on the defunct Heavy Artillery Records label. Heavy Artillery stuff's pretty collectible these days. Matter of fact, I think another one of these in this pile I got here, let me see, is from, yeah, here's one more from that same label. Merciless Death. This being, I think this is their first full length. I think they had an EP before this. Again, another band that I don't think is around. And you'll notice that both of these had posters and stickers in the back. They were kind of known for giving away all the extra stuff, which I always liked. Very cool cover art. Obviously, this looks like a Ed Repka. Apparently, you can't be a thrash band without having an Ed Repka cover, and that's what you got going on here. Here you got zombies attacking a woman. So again, very raw thrash, very much influenced by early Exodus in their sound, but very good. Again, I don't consider them B-rate or C-rate or garbage at all. I think they're a great band. So this band more of a crossover band, but this is Gamma Bomb. These guys have many records out now, and they're still around as far as I know. This is the Terror tapes. This one was from, let's see here, it was from a few years ago now, 2013, so 6 years ago. But good stuff. Again, very much, you know, in the crossover, so a little more punk influence than some of the more metal sounding stuff that I just previously showed. This is a very much newer band. These guys, I think this is their third album. It's only 100 pressed on vinyl, but this is Mudrost. I love this album, and these guys are very technical, very progressive. I'd call them prog thrash. Very much in the line of, like, say, like a Vindicator. Not that they sound like Vindicator, but very much in that kind of vein. I would say Corner is a huge influence on these guys. I also know, just from personal experience, that the guitar player and singer in this band is also a huge fan of prog rock. So bands like Eloy and Yes and whatnot, he's very much into that kind of stuff, as well as some of the more techno and prog thrash bands. But this stuff's really heavy. Again, pushing towards death metal, never really crossing that line, but some early death metal influences. You definitely hear some Chuck Death influences in this. You know, the band Death influences on this. These guys are fantastic. Matter of fact, I like them so much that I contacted the band and asked if I could possibly sign them for their next release, which we did, and it's not been officially announced, although I'm saying it now. But shortly, that will be coming out on nolifetilmetal Records, which I believe that they're going to be their 4th album. And I've already heard it. It's already recorded, and it sounds great. Another one of those kind of crossover bands. I don't think this is a Ned replica cover. It might be. Looks a lot like his stuff, but anyhow, Violator, a very popular band. People seem to know about these guys pretty much. Annihilation Process, like I said, crossover thrash metal. Good stuff. If you like that, you know, punk influenced mayhem in your thrash metal, that's what you're gonna get with them. This band's not really newer, so I'm kind of getting into more of the classic stuff now. Because these guys have around in the 90s, so for me, I don't consider them a newer band. Especially consider this is a veteran in the death metal scene and deceased, but this is King Foley's October 31. You know, this is Brian Hellstar Williams and King Foley's baby. This being like their third, I think, or fourth full-length album. Their first couple albums are more of a power, U.S. power metal albums. They kind of moved more thrash with each album. This one's definitely thrash, right down to the cover of Overkill's Wrecking Crew on here. So yeah, I'm a huge October 31 fan. I have all their stuff on vinyl, CD, and all their 7-inch singles. So this next band is a classic band from the late 80s, early 90s. Their first full length didn't come out until I think 1991 or so. Really like these guys though. This is COLDSTEEL, and this is FREAKBOY. This is a great album. This is one is definitely worth looking up. It's hard to find on vinyl. It's hard to find on CD as well. Unfortunately, it's not been re-released that I know of. Their demos have all been re-released recently. I think you get them at High Roller, and yeah, I'm pretty sure High Roller has them. And they have a new EP out too, which I'm going to show next because I think it's worth showing. It's just as good. This one kind of came out in what, 1990, 91, somewhere in that area. So right around the end of, you know, when thrash metal had its heyday. But this is just pure raw thrash from the East Coast. I believe these guys were from New York, in the you know, New York City area somewhere. So COLDSTEEL, FREAKBOY, and then I think they're from Long Island actually. I'm pretty sure they're from Long Island. So and then this is their last album. They did. This is 2 or 3 years old now. But this is American Idol. The vocalist from this band, there's a good picture of him right here, Troy Moore, right there. Actually sings for the band Them these days. Which I think I actually have. Maybe I don't. I thought I had it sitting right here, but I don't. But I do. So yeah, check it out. So it's the same vocalist that sings for this band. That's singing for COLDSTEEL. But this EP, every bit as good as the album. Matter of fact, it's probably a little better because it's better recorded. It's raw, heavy, crunchy, but very well recorded. I mean, it's got the riffs. It's got, it's very opinionated as far as it's politically motivated, politically charged, which is not unusual, especially for thrash metal. But yeah, both these are fantastic if you can find them. Third album from this band, but probably my favorite from them. This is I'm getting a bit of avalanche going on here. Hang on a second. So Devastation. This is Idolatry. It's an original pressing on what was this, on Combat? I can't remember now. And actually, this is not an original pressing. This is a reissue. Strictly limited to only 500 copies. 250 black, 250 yellow splatter. This was number 669 at 500. But it is a die cut cover. But these guys are a little more melodic, pushing more towards speed metal. Especially by this point, their first album was a little more raw, a little more violent. This one's a little more melodic. Has some, you know, big Maiden influences in it. I hear a lot of Testament when I hear this too. But regardless, Devastation, great band. Idolatry. Another German band. There's a lot of great German thrash bands, but this is one you don't hear very much of. Protector. This is GOLUM, which I don't remember what it was in their catalog. They had a lot of EPs and demos and whatnot that came out, but this is one of their early albums. This would have been, what, 1980? Let's see if there's a date on here, because I think it's 87, 88, somewhere in that area. But this is, again, controlled chaos. Very good stuff from Protector. If you're into, you know, thrash metal, there's no reason you wouldn't like these guys. If you're just into Metallica, Slayer, and Anthrax, then maybe not, because they don't sound like any of those bands. They have their own unique sound. They kind of have that German vibe going on with them, as opposed to you know, some of the other, some of the big four thrash bands. This one I had a hard time with because I like all four of their albums. I'm like, all right, well, which one do I show? The first two albums are a little more thrashy, a little more raw, especially their first album. But by this time, they were full-on prog thrash. Still had the thrashy part, still had the aggression, still had the punk ethic. But man, these guys can play, and they definitely have a very progressive side to them. Much like the band like Voivod, you know what I mean? As they moved away from the chaos to a more progressive sound. That's what you kind of had with ANACRUSIS as well. Ken Nardi was one of the main men behind the band, and yeah, it's just a fantastic release. This is a recent reissue on Metal Blade Records. I've had the original CD pressing for decades since it came out. I bought it as a brand new release on CD. So glad it's finally released on vinyl. ANACRUSIS US progressive thrash metal. This next band, a bunch of people asked me about in the last two videos, why were they included? Like I said, I wasn't at the bottom of the barrel, so this is Schizophrenia from Sepultura, Brazilian thrash band. I really like this early stuff. I have, and some of the stuff they did after Chaos AD, Roots Bloody Roots, I actually like the song a lot. And I like some of the albums, some of the songs after that, but I really think that the stuff they did, like Schizophrenia and Beneath the Remains, really is just absolutely 100% stellar stuff. I mean, I don't think they ever were able to do better than this. So yeah, these are probably two of my favorite albums from them. Beneath the Remains and then Schizophrenia from Sepultura. I remember back in the day when those guys were, you know, a newer band and they were putting this kind of stuff out. A lot of people were calling them death metal. And in the you know, looking back now they're not really death metal. They're more of a thrash band. But I can understand why people thought it, because they had that aggression, they had that raw edge to them, especially that early stuff, man. Their first EP and even Schizophrenia is very roughly recorded, very raw, all about speed. And you know, the band was young and ambitious and hungry, so they were like, look how fast we can play, look how evil we are. You know, that's kind of what they were after. So another band that I was actually kind of surprised nobody said anything about. Why don't you include this band? Well, I got this one. This is actually a single. I'll show the full-length album after this, but I got the single in the mail today, so I thought I'd show it since I was showing this band now. But this is Heathen. This is their 12-inch single for Set Me Free, which is a cover song, obviously. And then the B-side is Goblin's Blade. But the album I chose to show, it was their comeback album from just a few years ago, The Evolution of Chaos. I love this album, man. I really like all three Chaos albums, all three Heathens albums, all three Heathen records. There you go. But I don't know. I just picked up on this one right away, and I've loved it ever since. So gave it a fresh spin before I did this video, and I loved it just as much this time as I did back when I was spinning it, you know, every other day when it was new. Cool cover art. Again, a little bit progressive in their sound, probably more of a speed metal sound than a thrash metal sound, because it's not very, you know, I think it's thrash metal, I think violent and aggressive. I think in early Slayer, I think, you know, Kill 'Em All, that kind of thing. This is more refined than that, so pushing more towards speed metal and even US power metal at times. So Heathen, The Evolution of Chaos. Going back to the Brazil here. I did a video not too long ago, maybe 3-4 months ago, of a package that came from Brazil, and there was several bands in there that I really enjoyed. But this is probably one I've spun the most since that time. So this band is fairly new to me. I've only known of them and heard this album for the last few months. But this is great stuff. No Limit da Forca Antares. Brazilian thrash metal, old school stuff. This is probably late 80s, 1988 or so. See if there's a year on here or not. I don't see one, but this is a recent repressing. Let's see here. No, I don't see it on here anywhere, but I'm pretty sure it's around like 88 or so. But Brazilian thrash metal, they definitely are influenced by the early 80s Bay Area sound in their sound. It's not unlike, you know, any band's got influences, and these guys definitely had the influences and weren't ashamed, and we're very proud of wearing them on their sleeves, actually. Antares, nolifetilmetal or Forca, F-O-R-C-A, Force in English. I'm not sure if you say it with a hard C, like, or if you say it as like an S, but UK thrash. Again, this is a new album from these guys. Are great. This album's fantastic. Just from last year, it says "Bury the Pain" by XENTRIX. I think this is one of their best albums. I really do. I showed some UK thrash from who was it? Acid Rain, and not too long ago, and in one of those past videos. And I think Acid Rain's newest album is fantastic. It was my favorite of last year. And this is no different. XENTRIX, "Bury That Pain" is really, really well done thrash metal. If you're into, you know, especially modern thrash, because these guys got more modern production, this is really good stuff. If I would have had this in 2019, it would have been high on my list. Unfortunately, I didn't get it until just a few months ago. So, all right, now we're going back to New Jersey on this one, or maybe it was New York. It might have been New York. In New York, New Jersey area, it kind of all blended together. I grew up in New Jersey, and I was in New York as much as I was in Jersey. So, but this is a recent reissue, Savage Thrust, Eat 'Em Raw. As you can see, it's very mature, progressive music. It's not. That cover is just ridiculous. You got this green monster with glowing eyes eating the eyeballs and the flesh off of a blonde woman as he burns in flames. It's ridiculous, over the top, but it is what it is, and I enjoy the music on here. So yeah, you're not gonna if you're gonna call a band B-level, this is gonna be B-level stuff. But just like a good B-level horror movie that you can enjoy, you also can enjoy this. To me, it's not like, someone told me, had a discussion on YouTube about this. Someone told me it's like choosing between a Mercedes and a Yugo, you know, or something like that. I can't remember what cars he chose, but or having, you know, a prime rib and some slop. But I just don't see it like that. You know what? I can get a hamburger from McDonald's and I can enjoy it, or Burger King. But are they the best burgers? Heck no. They've been around a long time. You know, they sell a lot of hamburgers, but there's some local places in New Mexico that make some pretty darn good hamburgers, man. Smothered in mushrooms and sauteed onions, and man, that's some good stuff. You know, that's your prime stuff. But again, I can dig this kind of stuff as well. So, McDonald's. I just compared this band to McDonald's, but you get the point. This next band, someone mentioned them in one of my other videos, and to me, they kind of fit with like the Flotsam and Jetsams of the world. They're not really a thrash band, in my opinion. The vocalists from this band ended up getting into a thrash band, but this is Sentinel Beast. To me, Sentinel Beast were U.S. power metal. You know, right along with Metal Church was another band some people asked about. I never considered Metal Church to be a thrash metal band. They were always the prime example of U.S. power metal. And Sentinel Beast right along the same way. Debbie Gunn is the vocalist here, of course. Debbie Gunn went on to, was it Snow White? I believe that's right. And sang a couple albums with them. But still, good stuff. If you're into thrash metal, there's no reason you probably wouldn't dig Sentinel Beast as well. They're definitely not wimpy. You think female vocals, you kind of think of bands like Vixen, you know, that kind of over-the-top poppy stuff, or even Lita Ford, whose stuff was very commercial. This is definitely not commercial. This is the one band I'm going to repeat that wasn't in, that I didn't show in my, they did show one of my last videos. This band actually had a record in my top 30 video, or top 40, whatever it was, and I showed one of their albums, but this is one of their new albums. This album is great. These guys have put out 3 or 4 great albums over the last 5 years that I just think are stellar. But I'm a huge fan of Accuser to begin with. I think they're one of the most underrated bands that come out of Germany. This is an example of cream of the crop not rising to the top, as somebody said. This is an example of a fantastic band who just never quite got their due. They never were quite on the big label, you know what I mean? They were never worldly known, but great band nonetheless. They're on Metal Blade Records now, and every album they put out is stellar, and the masters are one of my favorites. This is on pink pastel vinyl. I have no idea who decided that was a good choice for thrash metal, but it is what it is. This album will make an appearance in another video I'll be doing soon, but this is the 3rd album from British band Onslaught. I mentioned them in my last video as well, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it. This is when Steve Grimmett from Grim Reaper joined the band. They went more of a speed metal route. Steve Grimmett's got a great voice. These guys were great songwriters, so together they created one fantastic album. They only did this one album together, and I love it. In Search of Sanity from Onslaught. Nobody mentioned this one. I'm surprised. You know, a lot of people were like, how come you didn't mention this and that and the other thing? And nobody said this band, but I love this band. I've got all 3 other albums in their 1 EP. Maybe 4 albums. They have 4 albums because they have a comeback album that was only on CD. This is their first album, Metal Blade, Nasty Savage. Of course, everybody knows Nasty Ronnie. There he is on the back, looking ever so nasty. But this band was the thrash metal version of Kiss, with a wrestling singer and drummer that blew fire, and some fantastic dual guitar work, a la Iron Maiden, Thin Lizzy. I love everything about these guys. To me, this was more speed metal again than thrash metal. They didn't really have they weren't violent, they weren't Slayer, they weren't Sodom, you know what I mean? They were more of a speed metal band, but regardless, great stuff. Nasty Savage. I don't know, I grabbed both. I couldn't decide, so I grabbed the first 2 albums from this band. I like them both. So I'll show you the first album first. This is Tales of Terror. Again, these guys are on Metal Blade. This is actually a combat pressing of this. But Tales of Terror, and my personal favorite from them, Death and Insanity. I say that, but I like them both almost equally. So Hallows Eve. These guys disappeared. They released 3 albums, disappeared for a while, came back, and they've released a plethora of albums since then. Some good, some not so good. But I don't think they've ever topped these 2 records, in my opinion. So again, big hooks, great songwriting. You know, they've got the chops, they've got the speed, the aggression, the guitar solos, the riffs, you know, all that stuff. But they also had melody and hooks. You know, some bands didn't have that, especially some of the neo-thrash bands that came around in 2000. So they were all about the speed. These guys were about the speed, but they also had the big hooks, memorable songs. I mean, I just think of the title Death and Insanity. It's the only, you know, I can't even say the title without thinking about it. And this particular album had kind of the whole death and insanity, you know, the whole dealing with mental health ran through this whole album. Was almost a theme through this album. So the word death is repeated a lot in here. So you got D-I-E, death in effect. So, yeah, Goblet of Gore is on here as well. These are great albums. Fourth Entry, another USA band from the mid-'80s. This was their second album. I can't remember now. I mixed them up, but regardless, it's on Combat. I'm pretty sure this is their second album. This is from 1988, 89, somewhere in that area. 89, I believe. And cool cover. Great music. Again, you know, most people call them thrash metal, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree. Not the violent kind of thrash metal, more melody than anything else. They did have the hooks, they did have the riffs, they had everything you wanted from a thrash metal band. And frankly, had they been around in 1983 as opposed to 1988, they probably would have been much more well known. I grabbed 2 from this band too, but the first album, again, they're kind of like Law's Rocket in the fact that they didn't start off as a thrash metal band. This is HEXX. This is their first album. This is No Escape. This is US power metal. However, by their next album, Under the Spell, they were balls to the wall thrash metal. And as they progressed over the years, they actually went from thrash metal to a more thrash death sound, almost if not death metal. And then their last album, they did a reunion album not too long ago, and they returned to an album that sounded like it could have fit right between the 2, because it was kind of like your power thrash, you know, power metal / thrash metal, kind of in between the 2, and it was a great album. Matter of fact, I just listened to it again the other day. But anyhow, Under the Spell, Metal Blade Records, had to be 1989, and so even earlier than that, it was 86. So these guys are fairly early with this sound, Under the Spell. And finishing things up I grabbed a Z, so this series is done. A through Z. I'm not doing another one of these. Do I have more thrash? Yeah, but am I gonna? No, I'm done with this one for a while. But we're gonna go with the street metal of ZEOTROPE. This is their first and second album I have here. I believe they only released 3 albums. I have the first 2 on vinyl. I have all 3 on CD. Hard to pick a favorite between the two. I didn't even try. I just like them both. So, actually, it says right on the bottom here, hardcore street metal. That's what these guys call themselves. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't argue with anybody if they called them power metal. I wouldn't argue with anybody if they called them thrash metal. They kind of had that sound going for them. They had the look too. Always thought I can't remember his name. Let's see here. Willis, Calvin Humphrey, nicknamed Willis. I always thought he had a really cool look. I got him in there? Yeah. There he is. Red bandana on, bullet belts, just metal through and through, you know? So there you go. ZEOTROPE, hardcore street metal. Z for ZEOTROPE, and that is the end. Appreciate everybody who watched and everybody who commented. I got some great comments. Even people I didn't necessarily agree with. I love the conversation. Everybody was respectful, so I appreciate that. And thanks for the people who recommended bands too. That was awesome. Get to look into some new stuff that I didn't know about. That's it. Thanks for watching. God bless. Stay strong.